Now, some are saying Wilder should retire after this loss. And I believe in my last video, in my prediction video where I picked Wilder to lose, I said that if he loses, he should retire. And I think Wilder's situation is one of those situations where he's developed a certain fan base that he himself feels the need to satisfy. I could tell you right now, right? Me, boxing librarian, Jedi, blood boxing, and many others. I could tell you right now, if there wasn't a crazy, ridiculous fan base, and I'm talking about the fanboys for Wilder, guys like us wouldn't have never ever criticized Wilder the way we have. And that goes for Tyson Fury, that goes for Canelo, that goes for any fighter. Once you become a fanboy and then you disrespect other channels, it just opens the door to speak out the truth about your favorite fighter or the fighter that you are fanboying for. Wilder came out of nowhere in cleaning house, knocking everybody out in his promotional company with their own rankings. For whatever reason, Wilder was just fighting guys within his promotional company. And that's fine if the competition is stiff, right? If the competition is good. And when you look at Wilder's resume and his title run, right? It's still not a satisfying resume up until he fights Tyson Fury. Because I'm one of the guys who I don't think Luis Ortiz is a quote unquote elite heavyweight. I don't think that Luis Ortiz is this boogeyman. He's none of that. He's a guy who tested positive for banned substance. He's a guy who has a mediocre win, which is his best win on his resume. And I believe that's, what's the guy's name? Jenkins or something? I think that's his name. I can't remember his name. But so everyone up until Tyson Fury, that's when Tyson Fury's resume now is starting to elevate. Except it stopped there with Tyson Fury, right? Because he fought Tyson Fury and then he had a split decision, controversial split decision, because I do believe Wilder lost that fight. But he had a controversial split decision. And then after that, he fights Dominic Brazil, which is not anyone to brag about, right? Dominic Brazil was beaten already by Anthony Joshua, but that's besides the point. What I'm saying is Dominic Brazil wasn't this world breaker that's going to catapult his resume. And vice versa. It didn't do much for Anthony Joshua's resume, right? But nonetheless, they both faced him. Okay? So he fights Dominic Brazil, and then he fights Luis Ortiz. Okay? That doesn't qualify as this added opponent on his resume that's going to get him close to Hall of Fame. Okay? So then after that, he fights Tyson Fury twice. This is his second and third time fighting Tyson Fury. And he lost both of them, one by TKO and one by KO. Okay? Then after that, he fights Robert Helenius. Okay? Which isn't, again, is another opponent that's not going to take you to the next level in your resume. Then he fights Joseph Parker, and then he fights Zhang. Two of those fights he lost. So now we're talking about a guy who was a world champion fighting mediocre opponents. They're okay. They're okay opponents. They're not super great. They're just okay. They're just opponents. Much like the opponents in the Rocky film, in Rocky 3, where Mickey told Rocky, those fighters that you fought were good. They weren't handpicked, but they weren't killers. You understand what I'm saying? So Wilder, now when he stepped in his competition, right? Once he stepped up in competition, because I don't think fighting Luis Ortiz is a step in competition. I'll just be honest with you. And I can make a whole video on that, but I'm not. Once he stepped up in competition, Wilder is 1-4. Okay? He's 1-4. Out of 5 fights, he won 1 fight. And the 1 fight that he won in his last 5 fights was against a mediocre opponent. And every single opponent that was a top quality opponent, he lost to. And he almost lost to Luis Ortiz the very first time. But the referee, the ring doctor saved him. Now, all of us, and I'm speaking for a lot of us who've criticized Wilder for his resume, all of us could agree that we all like knockouts. And of course, Wilder was exciting to watch, and he is. There is nothing wrong with watching Wilder. Everything that Wilder did when his title run is what you want to see out of a heavyweight. You want to see the knockouts. You want to see the devastating knockouts. Okay? But you do want to see stiffer competition. And there's so many heavyweights that Wilder just didn't fight. He didn't fight Dillian White. He didn't fight Anthony Joshua. He didn't even fight the journeyman Jarek Chisora. He didn't fight Joe Joyce. He didn't fight Duhaupas. I said Duhaupas. He did fight Duhaupas. Duhaupas was beating him up too. He didn't fight Dubois. He didn't fight Philip Herkovich. He didn't fight Andy Ruiz. All of these heavyweights. He didn't fight Usyk. He didn't fight so many heavyweights for me to call this guy one of a Hall of Fame fighter. Is he one of the best heavyweights in this era? Maybe so, to the point of being a quote unquote knockout artist. But is he the top quality is he one of the best heavyweights champions? I don't think so. And I don't think Fury is either. But you have to understand, all of these other names, and you didn't fight any of them. You didn't fight any of them. Now, getting back to Wilder himself, much respect for Wilder for getting into boxing and to take care of his family. And I do believe there was some type of illness that his daughter had. And so I respect his reasons for getting into boxing. And unfortunately, we do live in a country where healthcare is expensive and it's so hard to find good healthcare. Okay, I understand. So I respect Wilder for that. Okay, for that. But I'm going to put that to the side. Now I'm speaking to just the boxer and the boxing fans. Where the line was drawn is when you boxing fans started saying that Wilder is better than Muhammad Ali. Wilder is the hardest punching heavyweight to ever live. Wilder would beat Mike Tyson. Wilder would dominate the 80s, dominate the 60s. dominate the 70s, dominate the 90s, dominate the 50s. It started turning into this weird cult. And Wilder's bringing in, you know, racial division within the sport. And his fanboys followed along. This is where us boxing fans who don't see race and we only see human beings and we only see two boxers in the ring. This is when there was a separation because Wilder could have been liked. He could have been liked just like Anthony Joshua is liked, just like Usyk is liked. Except his fan base started attacking other channels and then started attacking the history of the sport. And everything is a hypothetical. For all I care, you could believe Deontay Wilder could knock out Holyfield and Mike Tyson in one night. And you know what? If that's what you believe, so be it. It's just make-believe anyway. But it got too ridiculous. Right? And then Wilder goes and he fires his trainer, Mark Breland, because he stopped the fight where he was getting beat up really bad. As your trainer, my job is not only to train you, it is also to protect you. That's my job. In the amateurs, it's the referee's job to protect you. When you get hit hard in the amateurs, they intervene before you could get dropped, if they can, and they give you a standing count. You fired him, and then you went and started to believe the nonsense from these YouTubers who started saying things about the water is contaminated and you were poisoned and Tyson Fury was cheating and he had egg weights. All of these things came into play and Wilder's fighting. He's never going to sign to a white man and he's signed to a black man and black power this. All of that should have been left out of the sport of boxing. And then that's when boxing fans like me, like Jedi, like Boxing Librarian, like Red Glove, that's when UGC, that's when we went at Wilder's like, hold on. Wilder's X, Y, Z, his opponents and blah, 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 blah. And he didn't fight this and he didn't fight that. And most of his opponents got knocked out before, some of them 2 or 3 or 4 times. So it turned into this weird division. And now, to put icing on the cake in a slap in your fanboy's face, he goes and signs to Matchroom and forgets all about the black power stuff, forgets all about you fanboys out there, and went against everything that you guys believed in. And when he goes and signs to another promotional company and Eddie Hearn makes him step up in competition, he lost. He lost. And I will say this, and I'll say it again. I do believe that the third match with Fury took too much out of him. And I don't think he's the same. And I also don't think Fury is the same. But that's what happened. He lost. He stepped up in competition and he lost. Wilder is a great heavyweight for this time. He was okay. He's a knockout artist. He was exciting. But he was never that elite fighter because he was not taught the basic fundamentals. He was not taught how to use his size. He didn't listen. He didn't train like you're supposed to train. He didn't run. And just hiring the wrong trainers and being around the wrong people, in my opinion, I think he should have stayed with Breland. And I think Breland should have made him work, make him learn the basic fundamentals. Because if Wilder would have learned the basic fundamentals that you first learn in boxing, he would have did much better in his career, and he would have fought better competition, and he would have did better against better opposition. And that's just my opinion on that. And shout out to Wilder. He had a great boxing career for what it is. I don't think he's a Hall of Fame fighter, but I'm not the one who votes people in. If he gets in, he gets in. It is what it is. But I do believe that he should retire. I don't want to see, I don't like to see fighters in the latter stage of their career just taking beatings, because that's the last thing that I want to see in any fighter. Salute to Deontay Wilder. You had a great career, but it's time to hang him up, champ. This is the MOB.